I was standing barefoot on the polished oak floors of my brand new oceanfront villa in Malibu when the phone rang. The Pacific stretched out in front of me like an endless sheet of glass, waves catching the golden light of late afternoon. I had worked 15 years for this moment, every sleepless night, every sacrifice, every paycheck carefully saved. The air smelled of salt and sunscreen from the beach, and for the first time in my life, I felt at peace. Then my sister Amanda's voice pierced that peace like a blade. "We're on our way, there will be 11 of us. Beds, towels, slippers, food, we'll be staying for 3 weeks. We'll be there in 30 minutes, so hurry up." She didn't even pause to ask if I was free, didn't ask if I wanted company. It was a command, barked with that familiar entitlement that had shadowed me since childhood. My fingers tightened around the phone. "Wait, Amanda, what?" "You heard me," she said breezily, as though this was the most natural thing in the world. "My friends are excited, don't make me look bad." I looked around at the villa, the floor-to-ceiling windows, the infinity pool glimmering just beyond the deck, the handcrafted desk in my office where I'd planned to spend the week journaling. Everything here had been chosen carefully, piece by piece, from the buttersoft leather of my chair to the linen curtains that swayed gently in the ocean breeze. It was my sanctuary, and now my younger sister wanted to turn it into a free resort for her friends. I smiled tightly, even though no one could see me, because this wasn't new. Amanda had been doing this, taking, demanding, assuming for as long as I could remember, and every time I'd let her. But before I tell you what happened next, let me take you back, because this wasn't just about a phone call. This was about a lifetime of being told my needs came second. Growing up in a tiny Minnesota town, my family looked perfect on the outside. Our house was modest but neat, with flower boxes my mother tended every spring. Neighbors waved when they saw my father coming home from his shift at the factory. We were the family people pointed to and said, "They're hardworking, they're close-knit." But behind those walls, there was always a divide. From the moment Amanda was born, 4 years younger than me, she became the sun around which we all revolved. My parents adored her. They said she was delicate, sensitive, in need of special care. And maybe she was, but that care always came at my expense. When I needed new school supplies, I was told to make do with last year. Amanda, meanwhile, received shiny new backpacks, colorful pens, the latest sneakers everyone else in school wanted. When I saved up for months to buy myself a silver necklace with a tiny sapphire pendant, Amanda borrowed it, pulled off the pendant to stick on one of her dolls, and then lost it. My parents told me I should be flattered. "She looks up to you, Maggie. Can't you share?" By 16, I was working 2 part-time jobs, stocking shelves at the grocery store and babysitting on weekends, just to save for college. My parents had told me flat out, "We can't help you. You're smart, you'll figure it out." Meanwhile, they started a college fund for Amanda when she was still in elementary school. Every slight, every sacrifice I swallowed, because I was the capable one, the reliable one, the one who didn't complain. The phone in my hand now felt hot against my ear. "You can't just show up with 10 people, Amanda," I said, forcing my voice to stay calm. "I didn't agree to this, you need to ask first." "Oh my God, Maggie, don't be so selfish," she snapped. "You have this massive house all to yourself. What's the big deal? It's not like you're using all the rooms." I looked out at the horizon, the waves rolling in steady, relentless. My heart beat faster, but not just with anger, with memory. Memory of every time Amanda had crossed a line and gotten away with it. The car she borrowed in high school and returned with an empty gas tank. The dress she ruined before my debate championship. The job interview she sabotaged by lending my car to a friend who wrecked it. And always, always, my parents standing behind her, telling me to be more understanding. And here she was again, 30 minutes away from my home, expecting me to turn it into her personal playground. This time, though, something inside me shifted. I wasn't that small-town girl anymore. I wasn't the tired college student scraping by on ramen. I was a 35-year-old tech executive, standing in a $5 million villa I had earned through sweat and sacrifice. And I was done being used. When I hung up, my hands were shaking. The villa suddenly felt too quiet, the crash of the waves too loud. I walked through the rooms, the soft cream couch I'd chosen, the kitchen with its marble counters, the office that smelled faintly of cedar from the reclaimed wood desk. Every corner of this house was a piece of me, a testament to everything I had built. And in half an hour, Amanda wanted to storm in with her 10 friends, trampling it all. I thought about the girl I used to be, the one who always gave in, and I asked myself a question that made my stomach twist. When someone you love has taken advantage of you your entire life, how do you finally make them stop? The clock ticked. The sun dipped lower, turning the sky orange. I knew Amanda's SUVs were barreling down the Pacific Coast Highway, packed with her friends, her luggage, her assumptions. I had 30 minutes to decide whether to let history repeat itself or to end it once and for all. And for the first time in my life, I felt the weight of a decision that could change everything. People often ask me why I didn't cut Amanda off sooner, why I tolerated years of disrespect, why I let her take so much from me without ever standing up for myself. The truth, because that's how I was raised. My parents didn't just love Amanda, they worshipped her, and I was raised in the shadow of that worship. I still remember the smell of my childhood kitchen: burnt toast, strong coffee, and the faint tang of lemon cleaner my mom used on the counters every Sunday. It was in that kitchen, at that oak table scarred with pencil marks from our homework, that I first understood the hierarchy in our family. I was 10, Amanda was 6. I had been saving my allowance for weeks to buy a paperback book, A Wrinkle in Time. It was my treasure, my escape. One afternoon, I came home from school to find Amanda at the table with crayons scattered everywhere. My book lay open in front of her, the crisp pages now defaced with streaks of purple and green. She looked up at me with her big eyes and shrugged. I made it pretty. I burst into tears, clutching the ruined book. My mom rushed in, wiped Amanda's hands clean, and said, "Maggie, she's just little, don't be so dramatic. She looks up to you." That phrase became a refrain in our household. She looks up to you. Translation: you must give, you must forgive, you must sacrifice. By 16, I was living 2 lives. At school, I was the hardworking honor student. At home, I was the built-in babysitter, the scapegoat, the one whose needs always came last. When Amanda wanted ballet lessons, my parents found the money. When I wanted to join debate club, I was told there wasn't enough in the budget. When Amanda needed braces, they took out a loan. When I chipped a tooth in gym class, I was told to wait until after graduation. It was just cosmetic. It wasn't just money, it was attention. At Amanda's dance recitals, my mom cried in the audience, my dad took endless photos. Afterward, we'd all go out for ice cream, no matter the cost. When I won first place in a regional debate competition, I came home to an empty house. My parents had forgotten the date. They congratulated me later, distracted, like it was an afterthought. I told myself it didn't matter, that if I worked hard enough, one day I'd escape. College was my first taste of freedom and hunger, literal hunger. I remember nights sitting in my dorm room, the hum of the mini fridge empty beside me, chewing on ramen noodles and sipping free coffee from the campus cafe where I worked 30 hours a week. I picked up another 15 hours as a research assistant, sleeping in snatches, my stomach often growling. Meanwhile, Amanda sent me photos from her private college. She was in Cancun on spring break, holding margaritas, her nails painted a glossy pink. "Look at the view from our hotel," she'd text, while I sat in the library under buzzing fluorescent lights, highlighting passages in borrowed textbooks. I never said a word. I didn't complain to my parents. I told myself I was stronger than Amanda, more independent, and in a twisted way, I was proud of that. But pride didn't keep me warm at night. The years blurred together. I climbed my way through entry-level jobs, then into management. I volunteered for every late project, every high-pressure assignment, clawing my way up the tech industry ladder. I saved every penny, living with roommates even when I could afford my own place. And all the while, Amanda coasted. She switched careers 3 times: graphic design, event planning, real estate, each time my parents covering tuition, rent, expenses. Each time she called me with stories of new adventures, while I sat alone at my desk, too tired to do more than nod and say, "That's great, Amanda." She lived her life as though safety nets were her birthright. I built mine with calloused hands. The silver necklace was the moment I should have known. I had saved for 6 months, skipping coffee, walking instead of taking the bus, eating instant oatmeal for breakfast every day to buy that necklace. A simple chain with a sapphire pendant, nothing flashy, but to me it was proof that I could own something beautiful. I wore it twice. Then one afternoon, it was gone. I tore apart my tiny bedroom, convinced I'd misplaced it. Hours later, I found it in Amanda's jewelry box. The chain tangled, the pendant missing. "What did you do?" I gasped. She shrugged. "I wanted it for my doll." My parents' reaction: "Can't you just share? She admires you so much." I stared at the broken chain in my hand, the hollow where the sapphire had been, and felt something inside me close off. That was the day I decided to leave Minnesota. But leaving didn't mean escaping. Even after I moved to California, Amanda found ways to pull me back. She called crying when her car broke down and begged to borrow mine for just a day. 3 days later, I found out she had loaned it to a friend who wrecked it. The repairs cost $8,000. She promised to pay me back. She never did. At Christmas, I brought it up cautiously. My mom put her hand on mine and whispered, "Please, Maggie, let it go, for the sake of family harmony." And I did. I always did. But something changed when I bought my Malibu villa. For 15 years, I had poured every ounce of myself into climbing, saving, waiting. The day I signed the papers, I cried alone in the real estate office, holding the keys in my hand like they were made of gold. The villa was everything I had dreamed of. 3 bedrooms, each with its own bathroom, floor-to-ceiling windows that opened onto the Pacific, a gourmet kitchen where I was learning to cook, an infinity pool that seemed to merge with the horizon. I decorated each room slowly, lovingly. The smell of fresh paint, the feel of cool marble under my hands, the sight of the sunset pouring molten orange light into my office, it was mine. Finally, something was truly mine. And then Amanda called. "We're on our way, 11 of us, 3 weeks, beds, towels, slippers, food, 30 minutes. I nearly dropped my coffee mug. That night, after hanging up, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my new bed, the ocean waves crashing just beyond the glass doors, my heart pounding like a drum. I thought about the years of sacrifice, the times I had gone hungry, the broken necklace, the wrecked car, the countless little betrayals. And I thought about Amanda, barreling toward me with her friends in 3 rented SUVs, expecting to waltz into my home like it was hers. My sanctuary, my dream. I pressed my face into the pillow, breathing in the clean scent of fresh linen, and I whispered into the dark, "No more." But saying it in the quiet of night was one thing. Facing Amanda, and the storm she always brought with her, was another. As the clock ticked toward morning, one question gnawed at me. When the people who raised you to sacrifice never learned to respect your boundaries, what happens the first time you finally enforce them? The next day, the Pacific sky was washed in pale gold when the doorbell camera buzzed on my phone. They were here. 3 black SUVs pulled up to the iron gate at the end of my driveway. I watched on the live feed as doors opened, and Amanda's entourage spilled out. 11 people in total, dressed in designer sunglasses and linen beachwear, carrying oversized luggage like they were moving in rather than visiting. Amanda stepped out last. She wore a wide-brimmed straw hat and a sundress that looked expensive but too big for her frame, as though she had borrowed it from someone else's closet. She waved at the camera like this was a red carpet entrance. "Maggie," she called, her voice syrupy sweet. "Come open up, we're dying to see the place." My stomach twisted. This was it, the moment I had spent my entire life avoiding. Saying no, not bending, not playing the role of the reliable older sister who always sacrificed. I slipped on my sandals and walked slowly down the driveway, the ocean breeze ruffling my hair. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears, but my hands were steady. When I reached the gate, I stopped about 10 feet back. I wanted that barrier between us for now. Amanda spotted me and lit up. "There you are, God, this drive was brutal. Open the gate, we need bathrooms like yesterday." Behind her, one of her friends, a tall man in swim trunks and a linen shirt, leaned against the SUV. He was already filming on his phone, aiming it at my villa like it was some celebrity sighting. Amanda wasn't kidding, he said, whistling. This place is insane. Amanda smiled proudly, like she was accepting a compliment meant for her. I folded my arms. Amanda, you can't just show up like this. I told you last night, I'm not prepared to host 11 people. Her smile faltered for half a second before she snapped it back into place. Very funny. Now seriously, open up. We're all starving. I'm serious, I said firmly. You didn't ask, you didn't get permission, this isn't happening. There was a beat of silence. The group shifted uncomfortably. One of the women whispered, "Wait, what?" Amanda laughed too loudly. "Ignore her, she's just being dramatic. Maggie, don't embarrass me in front of my friends. Everyone took time off for this trip." "You mean you planned this trip?" I said, raising my voice enough for the group to hear. "I wasn't told anything until 30 minutes before you arrived." One of her friends, a woman with sleek blonde hair, frowned. "Amanda, you told us your sister was excited for us to come." Amanda shot her a sharp look before turning back to me. "Stop being difficult. Just give us the keys and the alarm code. We'll take care of ourselves. You won't even know we're here." "No," my voice didn't waver. "This is my home, it's not a hotel." The man filming lowered his phone slightly, sensing the tension. Another friend muttered, "Amanda said this was a family vacation house that you co-owned." The words hit like a thunderclap. I stared at Amanda. "You told them what?" Her face flushed. "That's not important. The point is, we're already here. Where else are we supposed to go? Hotels in Malibu cost a fortune." "That's not my problem," I said. "You don't get to promise my home to people without my permission." Amanda's tone shifted, sharp as glass. "Maggie, stop, you're humiliating me. Open this gate right now, or I swear." "Or what?" I asked, my voice low. "You'll tell Mom and Dad, you'll play the victim again. That doesn't work here." The group was silent now, watching the showdown like an audience at a play. Some were uncomfortable, others annoyed. One man in the back muttered, "This is awkward." Another, a woman with auburn hair, crossed her arms and leaned against the SUV, clearly distancing herself from Amanda. I took a deep breath and looked Amanda straight in the eye. "You are not coming in. Not you, not your friends. This is my boundary, respect it." Amanda's mask cracked. Her smile disappeared, her voice rising into a shriek. "Are you kidding me? After everything I've done for you, after all the sacrifices Mom and Dad made for you, and you can't even let your sister stay in your giant empty house." Her words hit me like déjà vu. The same script, the same guilt tactics. Only this time I didn't flinch. I glanced at the phone, still clutched in her friend's hand. He was filming again, probably thinking this would make great content for Instagram. "Let me be clear," I said, raising my voice so it carried. "Amanda lied to you. This is not a family vacation home. This is my house, bought with my money after 15 years of hard work. She has no claim here. None." A murmur rippled through the group. Eyes turned to Amanda, questioning, doubtful. Amanda's face twisted with rage. "Why are you doing this to me?" she hissed. "Because you did this to yourself," I said quietly. Then came the pounding. Amanda grabbed the gate with both hands and shook it violently. "Open this damn gate, Maggie. I'm not joking around." The metallic clang echoed down the street, startling a flock of seagulls into flight. And just as I thought the situation couldn't escalate further, I saw movement at the corner of my camera feed. Two of her friends trying to slip through the side gate that led to the beach. "Hey," I shouted, "that's private property." The tall man laughed nervously. "Relax, we're just looking around." "Frank," I called. Within seconds, the community security guard appeared in his golf cart, alerted by the camera feed. He pulled up, his uniform crisp, his presence solid. "Everything okay here, Miss Thompson?" "No," I said firmly. "These people are not invited guests. They need to leave." Amanda froze, her hands still gripping the gate. "You can't do this," she screamed, desperation cracking through her voice. "We drove 6 hours. Where are we supposed to go?" "There are plenty of hotels," I said, "or you can drive home, but you are not staying here." Her friends exchanged looks, uneasy, embarrassed, some angry. The woman with auburn hair shook her head and muttered, "Amanda, what the hell?" For the first time in my life, I felt something stronger than guilt. I felt free. But as Frank stepped closer, ready to escort them out, Amanda's face shifted again. She dropped her rage and summoned the weapon that had always worked before tears. "Maggie," she whimpered, her voice trembling. "Remember when we were little? Remember the hideout we built in the backyard? You promised you'd always be there for me. How can you turn your back on me now?" Her mascara streaked down her cheeks, her sobs dramatic, performative. And I realized with a cold clarity, this wasn't grief. This was manipulation, the same kind she'd wielded since we were children. Only this time, it wasn't working. Standing there, my sandals sinking into the gravel, the salty wind in my hair, I asked myself the question that had haunted me for years. If love always feels like sacrifice, is it really love, or is it control? I took a step closer to the gate, looked Amanda dead in the eye, and said the words I had never dared to speak before. "You're not coming in, not this time, not ever again unless you respect me." Her face crumpled, her sobs turning into screams. And that's when something happened that none of us expected, something that would take everything from confrontation into chaos. Amanda's scream echoed down the street, sharp and raw, cutting through the hum of the ocean waves. Her friends shifted uneasily, the air around us thick with tension. The seagulls that had circled earlier had disappeared, leaving only silence broken by her shrill voice. "Open this gate," she shouted, her fists slamming against the iron bars so hard the metal rattled. "I'm not leaving." Her friends were divided, some embarrassed, some angry, some quietly pulling out their phones to record. One woman whispered, "This is going to end up on TikTok." Frank, the security guard, stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "Ma'am, you need to stop. This property is private. You've been told you're not welcome. Please get back in your vehicle." Amanda turned on him like a wildcat. "Stay out of this. This is family business." Then she spun back to me, her eyes blazing. "Maggie, if you don't open this gate right now, I swear." "What, Amanda?" I asked, my voice steady. "What will you do?" Her mouth twisted, and in that moment I saw something snap. One of her friends, the tall man who had been filming earlier, muttered, "This is insane, I'm calling an Uber." He turned to leave, but Amanda lunged at the gate again, rattling it violently. And then it happened. With a sudden burst of rage, Amanda shoved her weight against the gate. The latch, never meant to withstand that kind of force, snapped open. The iron swung wide. Amanda stumbled forward, her sandals catching on the gravel. She slammed into me with all her weight, knocking me backward. My head hit the edge of the stone pathway with a sickening crack. The world spun. I remember the smell of salt water, the sound of someone screaming. It might have been me, it might have been Amanda. The taste of copper filled my mouth. Pain bloomed white-hot across the back of my skull. When my vision cleared, I was lying flat on the ground. My hair stuck to the stone, damp and warm. I realized with horror it was blood. Amanda loomed over me, her expression a twisted mix of horror and denial. "Oh my God, Maggie, get up. Don't be dramatic, you're fine." Her words were distant, muffled, like they were coming through water. Frank rushed forward, his radio crackling. "We need an ambulance at 1725 Pacific Coast Highway, possible head trauma," he barked. One of Amanda's friends gasped. "She's bleeding, oh my God, she's bleeding." I tried to sit up, but the world tilted violently. My stomach lurched. Frank knelt beside me, his hand steady on my shoulder. "Don't move, Miss Thompson, stay still. Help is on the way." Amanda dropped to her knees beside me, tears streaking down her cheeks. But even in that moment, her voice was shrill, defensive. "I didn't mean it. She's exaggerating. She always exaggerates. Tell them you're okay, Maggie." I turned my head weakly toward her, the gravel digging into my skin. My voice came out hoarse, barely a whisper. "You pushed me." The words hung in the air like smoke. Amanda's friends froze. One of them, the auburn-haired woman, muttered, "What the hell, Amanda?" Amanda's face crumpled. "No, I tripped. It was an accident, right, Maggie? tell them it was an accident. My eyelids fluttered. Darkness threatened at the edges of my vision, but I held her gaze, the truth burning in my chest. No, I whispered, you pushed me. The paramedics arrived minutes later, sirens cutting through the salty air. They lifted me carefully onto a stretcher, the smell of antiseptic and rubber gloves replacing the ocean breeze. Amanda trailed after us, her voice desperate. She's lying, she always makes me look bad, you don't understand, she's my sister. But no one was listening. As they loaded me into the ambulance, the last thing I saw was Amanda standing in the driveway, her sundress whipping in the wind, her face pale and frantic. And then the doors slammed shut, plunging me into sterile fluorescent light. The ride to the hospital was a blur of beeping monitors and clipped voices. BP dropping. Possible concussion, skull fracture. Stay with us, ma'am, can you hear me? I wanted to say yes, but my tongue felt heavy, my words stuck. Instead, I closed my eyes and let the sound of the siren carry me forward. Hours later, I woke to the smell of disinfectant and the hiss of oxygen. My head throbbed, my body heavy with pain. A nurse adjusted the IV in my arm, her voice gentle. You're at UCLA Medical Center. You're stable, but you've got a nasty laceration and a concussion. Doctor will be in soon. I lifted a trembling hand to the back of my head. Bandages, thick, tight, sticky with dried blood. Flashes came back, Amanda's scream, the gate swinging open, the crack of my skull against stone. And for the first time in my life, I realized my sister's entitlement hadn't just cost me money, or peace, or dignity. It had almost cost me my life. But even in that hospital room, the family script wasn't finished. Because when the door opened, it wasn't just the doctor who stepped inside. It was Amanda. Her makeup was smeared, her eyes swollen from crying. She clutched her phone in one hand, her nails chipped, her voice trembling. Maggie, she whispered, please don't tell them what really happened. I stared at her from the hospital bed, my body aching, my head pounding, the monitor beeping steadily at my side. And I realized I was about to face the hardest choice of my life. The steady beep of the monitor was the first thing that anchored me back into reality. Sterile air filled my lungs, the faint tang of antiseptic clinging to everything in the room. My head throbbed beneath the tight bandages, each pulse like a hammer against stone. The door creaked open. The doctor stepped in, his white coat fluttering slightly as he moved. Behind him, Amanda hovered in the doorway like a shadow, her eyes red-rimmed, her cheeks still streaked with mascara. Miss Thompson, the doctor said warmly, I'm Dr. Patel. You're stable, but you've sustained a concussion, and we've stitched a laceration on the back of your scalp. We've taken x-rays, and there may be a small hairline fracture to your occipital bone. We'll monitor you closely for the next 24 hours. A concussion, a fracture, the words sank into me like weights. Amanda's breath hitched audibly. See, she's fine, just a little bump. Dr. Patel frowned. This is not just a bump. Head injuries are serious. If she'd lost consciousness for longer, this could have been fatal. Amanda's eyes flicked to me, pleading. The nurse returned with a folder, sliding it onto the tray table. Inside were the images, x-rays, black and white, ghostly. The fracture line was faint but undeniable. I stared at it, the reality pressing in on me. Evidence. Proof. This wasn't just my word against hers anymore. Amanda stepped closer to the bed, her voice dropping to a whisper that trembled between fear and manipulation. Maggie, please, don't tell them it was me. You slipped. Say you slipped. I can't handle this if you don't. I turned my head slowly toward her, the IV tugging at my arm. My mouth was dry, but the words formed anyway. You pushed me. Her face crumpled. No, I didn't, she caught herself, lowered her voice. Okay, maybe I shoved the gate, but it wasn't my fault it swung open like that. You always twist things to make me the villain. The nurse glanced between us, her expression tight. Miss Thompson, do you want me to ask her to step out? Amanda flinched. No, I'm her sister, she needs me. I closed my eyes for a moment, exhaustion washing over me. The truth was, I didn't need her. Not anymore. Yes, I murmured. My voice was hoarse but firm. Ask her to leave. The nurse's hand was gentle but unyielding as she guided Amanda toward the door. Amanda resisted, her voice rising. Maggie, please, don't do this to me. Think of Mom and Dad. What will they say if they find out you accused me of this? The door closed on her cries, and for the first time since the fall, I felt a sliver of quiet. Later that evening, Dr. Patel returned, carrying a clipboard. Miss Thompson, I need to ask a few questions about how this injury occurred, for medical and legal documentation. I hesitated, my pulse quickened. I could still hear Amanda's voice echoing in my head. Think of Mom and Dad. I remembered every time I'd been told to forgive, to let it go, to keep the peace. But then I remembered the crack of my skull against stone, the metallic taste of blood in my mouth, the look in Amanda's eyes as she shoved the gate open. I swallowed. My sister pushed the gate. It swung open and she knocked me backward. I hit my head on the stone pathway. Dr. Patel's expression didn't change, but his pen scratched steadily across the page. Understood. We'll include that in your chart. I'll also recommend a social worker come by, just to document everything in case you need support. Support, the word felt foreign, almost laughable. I had never been supported in my life, not by my family at least. That night, under the harsh hospital lights, memories replayed in my head like an old film reel. My parents telling me Amanda looked up to me. Amanda wrecking my car and never paying me back. Her calling me selfish every time I said no. And now her shoving me to the ground, nearly killing me. The nurse adjusted my IV, the smell of alcohol swabs sharp in the air. You're lucky, she said softly. Head injuries like this, it could have been much worse. Lucky! I didn't feel lucky. I felt raw, stripped bare, as though every wound from the past had been ripped open with this one. By morning, Amanda was back. She stood at the foot of my bed, clutching a paper cup of hospital coffee. Her hair was a mess, her voice hoarse from crying, or pretending to cry. Maggie, listen, she said. I know things got out of hand, but you can't tell Mom and Dad it was my fault. You know how they'll react, they'll cut me off. Please just tell them you tripped, please. Her words spilled over each other, frantic, desperate. I stared at her, my head throbbing. Do you even hear yourself? I'm lying in a hospital bed with a fracture because of you, and you're worried about how you'll look. Her lips trembled. I didn't mean to, you know I didn't mean to. Intent doesn't erase impact, I said quietly. You hurt me again. She flinched, as though the words themselves had struck her. Later, when my parents arrived, Amanda's script shifted again. I heard their voices before I saw them. My mother's sharp, anxious tone, my father's deep sigh. Maggie, my mother cried, rushing to my bedside. Oh, sweetheart, are you all right? Amanda told us you slipped, that it was an accident. I looked past her at Amanda, who stood in the corner, eyes wide, silently begging me to play along. I turned back to my parents. My voice was steady, though my heart raced. It wasn't an accident. Amanda pushed the gate, she shoved me. The room went silent. My mother's hand froze in midair. My father's jaw tightened. Amanda burst into tears. She's lying, she's exaggerating, I didn't mean. Enough, my father snapped, his voice sharp in a way I hadn't heard in years. He turned to me, his eyes conflicted. Maggie, are you sure? I held his gaze. Yes, I'm sure. The next hours blurred doctors, paperwork, my parents, hushed arguments in the hallway. But one thing was clear, the truth was out. No more pretending, no more silence. For the first time, Amanda's lies had been cut open under fluorescent light, exposed for what they were. But as I lay there, staring at the ceiling tiles, I couldn't shake the question burning in my mind. If telling the truth finally cost me my family, was it worth it? The hospital room felt colder after my parents left to get coffee. Amanda was still in the corner, shoulders hunched, her arms wrapped tightly around herself like she was trying to keep from falling apart. You ruined everything, she whispered. I stared at her from my bed, the monitor beeping steadily beside me. I ruined everything, Amanda, I could have died. Her eyes snapped up to mine, wet and furious. You always do this. You make me the bad guy. You've been doing it since we were kids. Mom and Dad always. I cut her off. My voice was raw but stronger than I felt. No, you made choices. You lied. You pushed me. You promised my house to your friends like it was yours. That's not me making you the bad guy. That's you refusing to be accountable. For a moment, silence hung heavy between us, broken only by the hum of the machines. Then the door opened, and in walked Taylor. Taylor had been my best friend since college, the only person who knew the full story of my family dynamic. She carried herself with a kind of quiet authority, her heels clicking against the linoleum as she set a bouquet of lilies on the counter. Her eyes landed on Amanda, narrowing. What is she still doing here? Amanda bristled. I'm her sister. And I'm her friend, Taylor shot back. The difference is, I don't shove her into stone pathways or lie to our parents. Amanda's face reddened. You don't understand. No, Amanda, Taylor said, her tone sharp. I understand perfectly. You've been coddled your entire life while Maggie worked herself to the bone, and now you nearly killed her because you couldn't handle being told no. Amanda's lip trembled. That's not fair, I didn't mean to. Intent doesn't matter, Taylor snapped. Impact does, and look around. Maggie's lying in a hospital bed because of you. Amanda's tears spilled over. I didn't want it to happen this way, she whispered. I just wanted my friends to see me as someone important, not the failure who can't hold a job, who still calls mom for money. I told them the villa was ours because I wanted to feel like I mattered too. Her words cracked open something in the air. For the first time, Amanda wasn't screaming or manipulating. She was confessing. I swallowed hard, my throat thick. So you lied to them, to mom and dad, to me. Amanda's sobs came harder now. Yes, I lied, okay. I lied because I'm nothing without you. You have the career, the house, the life, and I have nothing. I thought if they saw me with the beach house, they'd think I was successful too. Her words cut deeper than I expected. Not because I pitied her, though part of me did, but because in that moment I realized the truth. Amanda wasn't just entitled. She was empty, and she had spent years trying to fill that emptiness with my things, my achievements, my sacrifices. Taylor stepped closer, her arms crossed. That's not Maggie's fault, and it's not her responsibility to fix your emptiness. Amanda wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, her mascara smudging further. But she's my sister. Family is supposed to help each other. I let out a bitter laugh, wincing at the pain in my head. Family is supposed to respect each other. Family doesn't get to lie, steal, manipulate, and then call it love. Amanda's gaze flicked between me and Taylor, her face crumbling. So what now? You're just going to cut me out, pretend I don't exist. I hesitated. The guilt my parents had drilled into me for decades rose like bile. Cutting Amanda off felt like betraying blood, but keeping her in my life meant betraying myself. Taylor must have sensed my conflict. She put a hand on my arm, grounding me. Maggie, you don't owe her access to your life. Not after this. Boundaries aren't betrayal, they're survival. The door opened again, and my parents returned, carrying paper cups of coffee. They froze at the sight of Amanda crying, Taylor glaring, and me sitting upright in bed, bandages stark against my hair. What's going on? My father asked cautiously. Amanda jumped in first, her voice high-pitched and desperate. She's cutting me out. She wants to destroy our family. I looked at them, my chest tightening. No, I want to save myself. For 35 years, I've been told to give in, to sacrifice, to keep the peace. And look where it's gotten me, a concussion, a fracture, and a sister who thinks she owns my life. My mother's face paled. Maggie, don't say that. I have to, I said firmly. Because if I don't, I'll never stop bleeding for this family, and I can't do it anymore. The room went silent. My father stared at the floor, his jaw working. My mother clutched her coffee like a lifeline. Amanda sobbed harder, collapsing into a chair. And then Taylor spoke, her voice calm but cutting. You've enabled this, both of you. You let Amanda treat Maggie like a second-class daughter. You excused every lie, every theft, every manipulation. And now Maggie's lying here injured because none of you taught Amanda what boundaries are. My mother bristled. That's unfair. No, Taylor said flatly, it's the truth. For a long moment, no one spoke. Finally, my father sighed, his shoulders sagging. Maybe she's right. Amanda's head snapped up. Dad. He looked at her, his eyes tired. Amanda, I love you, but you've been reckless. You've hurt your sister. And we've allowed it because we thought she could handle it. We were wrong. Amanda's face twisted in betrayal, but I could see something else flickering there too, fear. The safety net she had always relied on was unraveling. I leaned back against the pillows, exhaustion heavy in my bones. But for the first time, I didn't feel powerless. I'm not saying I'll never speak to you again, Amanda, I said softly. But if you want a place in my life, it has to be on new terms. Respect, honesty, boundaries. If you can't give me that, then yes, you're out. Amanda buried her face in her hands, sobbing. My mother reached for her, but my father held her back. Taylor squeezed my hand, her eyes steady on mine. That's the truth, Maggie, and it's about time it was said. Later, when the room was empty, and only the faint hum of machines kept me company, I thought about what had just unfolded. The truth was out. The roles we'd all been trapped in for decades had cracked wide open. And while part of me feared what that meant for my family, another part felt lighter than it ever had before. Because for the first time, I had chosen myself. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. Amanda wasn't done. And neither were my parents. The question was, when they pushed back, would I hold the line? 6 months after the fall, I still feel the scar every morning when I run my fingers through my hair. It's a faint ridge beneath the strands at the back of my head, small enough that no one else notices, but permanent enough that I'll never forget. That scar is more than a mark of what happened that day in Malibu. It's the line between who I used to be and who I became when I finally said no. The weeks after the hospital were messy. My parents called daily, sometimes together, sometimes separately. My mother pleaded with me to forgive and forget. She's your only sister, she said over the phone, her voice thick with tears. You can't just cut her off. Families don't survive that kind of division. My father was quieter, more reflective. Maybe it's time Amanda stands on her own, he admitted once. We should have made her do it years ago. Amanda texted constantly, apologies one day, accusations the next. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it, followed by, you're ruining our family, followed by silence for days. I didn't block her, but I didn't engage either. My therapist, Dr. Larson, coached me through it. Families resist change, he said during our sessions, his voice steady and calm. When one person sets new boundaries, everyone else feels forced to adjust. That discomfort is natural. What matters is whether you stay firm. So I stayed firm. Therapy became my anchor. For the first time, I unpacked what it meant to be the capable one in a family where love was rationed by need and appearances. I cried over memories I hadn't touched in decades. The necklace Amanda broke, the debate trophy my parents forgot, the Christmas when my car was totaled and no one cared. I admitted something I had never dared say aloud, that a part of me envied Amanda. Not her irresponsibility, but the freedom she had always been granted. The freedom to fail, to demand, to be seen as someone worth saving. I was taught my needs didn't matter, I said in one session. That being strong meant being invisible. Dr. Larson leaned forward. And now? I touched the scar at the back of my head. Now I know that being strong means being visible, saying no, refusing to bleed for people who won't stop cutting. Meanwhile, Amanda's life unraveled. Jordan, the auburn-haired friend who had distanced herself at the gate, called me a few weeks later. I just wanted you to know, she said carefully, Amanda's friends have stopped talking to her. They realized she lied to all of us. Some even lost money on the trip. She's well, she's not doing great. I thanked her for telling me, but I didn't ask for details. Still, word trickled in. Amanda had lost her job months earlier, something she hadn't told our parents. She'd been couch hopping, spinning lies about a renovated condo that didn't exist. After Malibu, the lies caught up with her. For the first time, there was no safety net. 4 months after the incident, Amanda called me. Her voice was softer, stripped of its usual theatrics. Mom and Dad cut me off, she admitted. They said it's time I learned to support myself. I waited, my heart steady. How do you feel about that? Terrified, she whispered. Angry, relieved, all of it. I got a job, customer service at Jordan's company. It's humiliating, but it's something. We talked for nearly an hour. She didn't apologize for Malibu directly, but she admitted something that sounded close. I've been pretending for so long, she said. Pretending I had money, pretending I had control. I don't want to live like that anymore. For the first time, I believed her. Still, I didn't let her back in fully. When she asked if she could visit, I said no. When she hinted about needing money, I stayed silent. But when she asked if I would meet her for coffee in Los Angeles, I agreed. We met at a small cafe, the kind with chipped mugs and chalkboard menus. Amanda looked different, tired, older but also real. Gone were the flashy dresses and exaggerated smiles. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, her hair pulled back. I'm trying, she said quietly over her cup of tea. It's harder than I thought. I know, I said, but that's how you grow. We sat in silence for a while, the hum of espresso machines filling the gaps. It wasn't reconciliation, not yet. But it was the start of something healthier, something built on truth instead of lies. Back in Malibu, my villa took on a new meaning. It wasn't just a house anymore. It was proof that I could build a life without sacrificing myself for others. I hosted a housewarming party 5 months later. 20 friends gathered on the deck, laughter echoing against the waves, glasses clinking in the warm evening air. Taylor gave a toast, her words making my throat tight. To Maggie, she said, raising her glass. For building this home with her own hands, and for having the courage to protect it when it mattered most. May this space always be filled with joy, peace, and only the people you invite. Everyone cheered, and I felt something I hadn't in years. Pride without guilt. Now, when I walk along the beach at sunset, the ocean breeze cool against my face, I think about what happened. I think about Amanda rattling the gate, her voice shrill with entitlement. I think about the crack of my skull against stone. I think about the hospital lights, the x-rays, the scar. But mostly, I think about the moment I stood firm and said no. Because that was the moment I stopped being the invisible daughter, the sacrificial sister, the quiet victim. That was the moment I chose myself. So here's what I want you to take from my story. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's survival. Real love doesn't demand you bleed to prove it. Real family doesn't require you to erase yourself to keep the peace. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is say no, even when it means standing alone. Because only then can you discover that you were never truly alone at all. I still have the scar, I still have the memories, I still have the complicated ties to my family. But I also have peace. And for the first time in my life, peace feels like enough. That's my story. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to set a painful boundary with a family member? How did it change your relationship? Share your experience in the comments. And if my story resonated with you, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and join me for more stories about navigating complicated families and finding strength where you least expect it.